Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. The Young and the Restless recap from Monday, July 14th, states that Damian Kane will be stabbed and collapse in Kane Ashby's arms. Phyllis Summers will also spot a murder scene, so here's what YNR viewers may expect. On the train, Phyllis will refuse to tell Billy Abbott about what she has learnt from her encounters with Kane. Nick Newman will continue to be irritated by the fact that Phyllis appears to be more likely to be loyal to Kane than anybody else. After Nick and Sharon Newman leave for the maze, she will return to the train car to collect something before sending him to the bar without her. Meanwhile, Kane will be with Amanda Sinclair when Lily Winters appears for some flirting moments, with Damian by her side. Kane will query if Damian and Lily are a couple, which Lily will eventually admit. Kane will swear not to express his affections for Lily again and wish her happiness, even if the outcome is not what he expected. Amanda and Lily will go for a walk together when Kane requests a private conversation with Damian. When Amanda questions Lily about whether she is using Damian to get Kane to back off, Lily will demand the truth about Kane's intentions. Amanda will be frustrated that Phyllis is the only one prepared to give Kane the benefit of the doubt. Lily will understandably be apprehensive of her ex, but Amanda will defend Kane and his personal growth. Nick will appear to question Amanda about why she defends Kane so much. Lily will ultimately feel that Kane and Damian's conversation is lasting too long, so she will go looking for them. Back with Kane, he'll open an expensive bottle of booze and share it with Damian. Kane will sip it slowly, while Damian appears to be drinking more quickly. Kane will convince Damian that he will maintain his promise not to pursue Lily if that is what she wants. However, Kane will caution Damian not to hurt Lily, prompting Damian to declare he does not mean to. Damian will begin to feel queasy and wonder whether Kane is attempting to poison him over Lily. Kane will argue that they are both drinking the same substance, and that if that were the case, he would try to take them both out. However, Kane will eventually notice he is also woozy and will conclude that something is wrong. Damian will be much sicker by then, but Kane will believe they need to return to the others. Someone wearing gloves will lurk nearby, armed with a knife. After Kane stands Damian up and attempts to convince him to walk, the mystery suspect will get near enough to hurl the knife into Damian's back. Kane will appear surprised as the wounded Damian collapses into his arms and finally loses consciousness on the ground. Back with Phyllis, she'll get lost in the maze again and mention that things appear different tonight. As she runs into Diane Jenkins Abbott and Jack Abbott, Phyllis will appear to be struggling to control her fright. After everyone has split off, Phyllis will emerge in the courtyard and see Kane holding the stabbed Damian in his arms. Kane and Phyllis will lock eyes as she examines the crime scene. According to the Young and the Restless spoilers, Phyllis will need to decide how to proceed after discovering this shocking news, so stay tuned for updates on her next move. Damian stumbled across the dimly lighted alley, his breath ragged and his body trembling. The distant bustle of the city faded into the background, replaced by the pounding of his own heart, a constant cadence of anxiety. He held his side, his fingers slick with blood, and the warmth seeped through his shirt, turning it a dark, foreboding red. Every step shot a sharp, burning pain through his body, but he forced himself to keep going, his vision blurring around the edges. He couldn't stop now, not with them still out there, pursuing him. The shadows appeared to grow and curl around him, transforming into monstrous creatures that screamed warnings into his ears. He had anticipated this moment, the life he led, the decisions he had made. It was only a matter of time until the reckoning occurred. But he didn't expect it to hurt this much, to feel so raw and final. The lane appeared to go on forever, a maze of concrete and sorrow, and Damian wondered if this was the end of his story, alone, in the dark, with no one to witness his fall. Kane appeared before him like a mirage in the desert. His brother, his competition, the one person who was always present, even when they were at odds. Kane's form came from the darkness, his expression inscrutable at first, but as Damian's knees buckled and his body finally gave out, he saw the astonishment, terror, and raw, unfiltered emotion on Kane's face. Damian sank forward, his power dwindling, and Kane grabbed him, his arms wrapping around him with desperation that spoke volumes. The world whirled around him, the pain a white-hot fire in his side, but Damian felt less alone for the first time that night. Kane's voice was a distant echo, shouting something, his name, a curse, a request for assistance, but Damian couldn't make out the words. His vision tunneled, with the edges creeping in and the light receding. Kane's hold tightened, and he could hear the rough edge of his breathing and the crack in his voice as he called out again. The knife had been quick, a flash of silver in the darkness, a treachery he hadn't expected. Damian had always taken pride in his ability to anticipate every action, but this had caught him off guard. The attacker vanished into the night before Damian could register the pain, leaving him to wobble, bleed, and fall. And now he was in Kane's arms, not losing sight of the irony of the situation. They had battled so many times, swapped blows and angry words, and stood on opposing sides of an invisible line for so long. But in this moment, none of that mattered. Kane slammed his hands on the wound, his touch feverish, his voice a constant stream of words, "Stay with me, damn it." Damian wanted to laugh, to remark something cutting or clever, but the words would not come. His lips tasted like copper, his neck tightened, and his body became heavier by the second. Childhood memories flashed through his consciousness like a dying film reel, before the world turned them against one another, before the weight of his family's legacy crushed them beneath its heel. He remembered Kane's bright, unfettered smile, and how they had once been inseparable, like two sides of the same whole. Then came the fissures, the gradual, unavoidable drift, the moments when they had become strangers tied by blood but little else. And now they were, the circle closing, the past and present merging in a moment of stark clarity. Damian's hand jerked, his fingers faintly gripping Kane's sleeve, as if he could hold on to this moment, this tiny thread of connection. Kane's face was inches away from his own, his eyes wide, his mouth tensed, his dread palpable. The sound of sirens screamed in the distance, promising help that may arrive too late. Damian felt the cold creep in, the numbness expand, and the pain faded to a distant throb. He wanted to convince Kane that it was fine, that he didn't blame him, and that, despite everything, he still saw him as his brother. But the words were ash on his tongue, his voice taken away by the weight of his own mortality. Kane tightened his grip, his voice breaking as he begged, pleaded, and demanded Damian hang on for a little longer, just until aid arrived. But Damian knew, deep down, in that quiet place where the truth lived, that this was the end. The world around him became blurry, the sounds muffled, and the borders of his consciousness frayed. And suddenly it was over. The anguish, anxiety, and wrath faded away, leaving just stillness. Damian's body became slack in Kane's arms, his last breath a whisper against the night. Kane's scream ripped through the air, a raw, tortured sound that bounced off the alley's walls, a lament for what had been lost and could never be restored. The sirens became louder, the red and blue lights painting the landscape in vivid, surreal colors, but Kane remained motionless, refusing to let go. He hugged Damian's lifeless body, his shoulders trembling and his tears falling uncontrollably. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, and reality washed over him in waves. Damian was gone. Just like that. There was no spectacular last stand or dramatic farewell, just a knife in the dark and a life cut short. The police arrived, as did the paramedics, and the mayhem of the aftermath unfolded around them, but Kane scarcely noticed anything. His universe had reduced down to a single, horrible truth: his brother had died. The questions would come later: who, why, and how, but for now, there was only sadness, a gaping wound that no amount of justice could ever heal. Kane's hands were stained with Damian's blood, a harsh reminder of his failure and the events that led them here. He had always assumed that there would be more time, and that they would eventually find their way back together. But time had run out, and with it, all hope of reconciliation. The alley, once just another forgotten nook of the city, has now witnessed a tragedy that would have far-reaching consequences for those left behind. Damian's name would be added to a list, his death a statistic in a world that moved too quickly to mourn. However, for Cain, it would never be so simple. Damian's absence would torment him, like a ghost in the shadows and a voice in the silence. The weight of his brother's body in his arms would remain, leaving an imprint on his skin, a scar that would never heal completely. And as the night wore on and the first rays of morning appeared over the horizon, Cain remained there, kneeling on the cold pavement, his brother's blood on his hands and the painful reality in his heart. Damian was gone, and nothing would ever be the same again.